I wanted to wear my long sleeve EXO shirt, but it's like 70 degrees outside, so I didn't want to wear any kind of long sleeve shirt. So if nothing else, I'm repping with the Starboy shirt. Either way, it is time. The Weeknd is finally back with his 4th studio album, After Hours. You guys can probably tell by the shirts I wear, by some of the references I make, by the fact that my channel's banner just says Starboy. The Weeknd is one of my favorite artists. Known outside of his nickname as Abel Tesfaye, a lot of you probably already know who this guy is. He first blew up in 2011 with his trilogy of mixtapes that ended up getting some major clout on the internet. 2013 saw the release of his debut album Kissland, and then in 2015 his record Beauty Behind the Madness catapulted him into the mainstream, and he has stayed there with his 2016 record Starboy as well as his 2018 EP My Dear Melancholy. I've reviewed all of the Weeknd's projects up to this point on my blog, and these are some of my oldest reviews, and they're very primitive and kind of outdated and not very specific, but I will link them in the description if you want to check out my thoughts. But even on some of Abel's weaker projects, I have loved so many tracks, and I have consistently loved a lot of his music. Back in 2017, I saw the guy live twice. Again, the first time is where I got the shirt, and after the Starboy tour and all the stuff with Starboy, I was so excited for whatever he would come with next. That said, the last few years have been a little bit more quiet for him. In 2018, he released his EP My Dear Melancholy, which I adored, but a lot of people weren't sure what that project represented. There was a lot of rumors surrounding it about it going back to Abel's roots and being a little bit away from the somewhat poppy sound of Beauty Behind the Madness and Starboy. And I remember there were some rumors at the time that My Dear Melancholy was supposed to be the first in a trilogy of EPs similar to the trilogy of mixtapes back in 2011, House of Balloons, Thursday, and Echoes of Silence. But after that EP, Abel went pretty quiet. He did have some feature work throughout 2019. He was the executive producer of his label mate Nav's latest album, Bad Habits, and he even made his first appearance in a film last year in Uncut Gems. For a long time, I and many other fans of Abel have been wondering, where is the album? Where is a full-length project from the Weeknd? He had been teasing Chapter 6 for a very long time, but just was not dropping anything. Until late last year when he dropped the first 2 singles from this record, Heartless and Blinding Lights, and then earlier this year he dropped the title track for this album, and suddenly Chapter 6 was ready to go. Now, while the wait for this album felt endless to me, the pre-release singles more than made up for it. Heartless was an amazing Metro Boomin produced trap banger that was honestly my favorite Billboard Hot 100 Top 10 peaking song of last year. It also reached #1, by the way. Blinding Lights recently got to the top 10 on the Billboard charts, and I can guarantee you that track will be high on my list this year because it's a smooth piece of 80s synth pop that's just too damn catchy. And the title track, wow, the title track. I was initially worried by it being 6 minutes in length, but it does not feel 6 minutes at all. The pacing is great. It feels in a lot of ways like Abel's old sound. I kind of likened it to if 2011 Abel had a budget. So with these singles, I was pumped for this album. The record itself is 14 tracks in 56 minutes, which is actually a little bit shorter than his last few studio albums. And there's no features this time around. When's the last time Abel released a record without any features? Probably House of Balloons, his first mixtape. That told me right from the start that this was going to be an album that cut deep. And what did I get out of it? Everything I could have wanted, that's what. This record more than lived up to my expectations, and I absolutely adore it. Per usual, Abel does something different in regards to his production here. He kind of mixes trap and synth pop and disco a little bit, but gives us even more darker and dramatic sounds that almost feel reminiscent of the film that he starred in, Uncut Gems. I know that the storyline of this album is kind of interesting. It kind of revolves around Abel becoming this character that becomes too hedonistic. I know a lot of his music has been very hedonistic, but now he's kind of using that as a storyline. He has, of course, kind of been inspired by films like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Uncut Gems, Joker, Casino, and that shows up on this album. I can really feel it on quite a few of these tracks. The opening track, Alone Again, is a heart-pounding opener that has this extremely twisty instrumental. The song feels almost futuristic, mixing a swelling synth feel with some trap-esque instrumentals. Abel's vocals are filtered a bit on the song so as to emphasize the instrumental a bit, but I like how the filters actually add to the harrowing feel of the song. I also thought the track Too Late did a great job of mixing electro sounds with a slightly trap-leaning beat. I also think some of the synths on the outro are amazing and they add an extra layer to the song. Snowchild has some very mellow, delicate trap-influenced production that adds futuristic sounds to it that make the song feel fantastically layered. Escape from LA has this trippy, psychedelic instrumental too. I love the weird variations variations of the rattling hi-hats on the song. It's a minor thing, but I really enjoy it. And even though the track is about 6 minutes long and kind of slow, it doesn't really lose my interest. The production is so twisty that it keeps me coming back. Save Your Tears is another groovy 80s leaning track that has a great emotional feel to it as well, and it also features one of Abel's catchiest hooks on the album. Speaking of Abel himself, his vocals are processed a bit more on several tracks here, but that's not to say that he doesn't sound great. I think that the processing is a little more to emphasize just how strong the production is, because I think some of the production on this album is some of the best that I've heard from him in a really long time. But again, he still sounds great. Prime example being the track Hardest to Love, which has some smooth vocal passages from Abel and very catchy earwormy melodies to it. The glitchy production is also some of the best that I've heard Abel on top of in a very long time. Also, Scared to Live is another perfect example. Abel tries out a somewhat disco-infused slow jam that samples Your Song by Elton John, and the instrumental is a perfect playground for him to show us just how amazing his vocals are. I waited for the album to release to hear this song because I know he performed it on SNL, but I wanted to wait to hear it with the album, and I'm glad I waited. It's a fantastic song. Faith is a track that sees Abel mixing harrowing vocals with some nice rap flows, and again, it's another great example of how Abel mixes the retro synth sounds with some more trap-leaning production. Shout out to Metro Boomin. He produces several tracks on this thing, and his instrumentals are kind of a wonder to behold. He's in top form too. Also, I know that Abel loves doing throwbacky songs, but wow, In Your Eyes, banger. The old school synth production is bouncy and catchy as hell. Vocally, Abel flows like butter on the song. I'm no dancer, but this track really made me want to get up and dance when I was listening to it. I love it. And the saxophone at the end, oh my gosh. Abel, please release this track as a single. Even the Repeat After Me interlude was a big surprise for me. I didn't think I was gonna love it that much because it's an interlude and I'm not crazy about a lot of interludes, but the song feels surprisingly full length and I love the minimal production on it. Abel's vocals are once again rather haunting and the instrumental has so many twists and turns on it that I just love. And I love the hazy vibes of the album's closer, Until I Bleed Out, which is another heart-clenching, beautiful track about Abel just wanting to be grounded and away from love and drugs and the high that they give him. It's a very potent closer that ends off the record perfectly, and as I said, it is just a heart-pounding song. Overall, the wait for this thing was so worth it. Abel pushes his sound even further here, giving us a mix of some of the synth-pop sounds that he showed before, along with some trap instrumentals. The result is some of the best production that he has ever gotten. I love how so many tracks feel like throwbacks, but they're also twisty, varied, switching up in style. In ways, it's weird because it feels like there's a lot of throwbacks here, but also songs that sound weirdly futuristic. Abel's vocals are again fantastic, and even in the situations where they are more processed, I kind of think the processing fits well with the songs themselves. There are a couple tracks where Abel, it feels, takes a more minimal approach to the vocals, and while his vocals have always shined, I think it's really interesting that he shows restraint here and makes it work. There's so much on here that I could have never imagined Abel coming through with, but he does it and just succeeds with flying colors, and it's great to hear him continue to push his sound in so many new directions, but also do so in a way that feels true to him. It's not just change for the sake of change, it still feels like Abel, but it's a great evolution of his sound. I think the record has something for everyone, whether you are a new Weeknd fan or an old Weeknd fan, and even though the wait for this thing just felt endless, I think Abel made it all worth it, and I'm so glad this turned out the way it did because it is fantastic. In terms of favorites and least favorite tracks, I don't even have any least favorites. I legitimately love every track on this album. This thing was amazing. Of course, it is going to get an excellent rating from me. The Weeknd, After Hours, please listen to it. You will love it. But that is just my opinion on this album. What did you guys think about it? Did you love it as much as I did? Did it leave you disappointed? Where would you rank it among Abel's other albums? And of course, EPs and mixtapes. Let's just have a conversation. Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Let's keep this civil and have some fun as we like to do. If you guys want to hit like and subscribe, thank you. If not, it's totally okay. I get it. In terms of what's next for my album reviews, well, I never really got to make a statement on this really because I thought my channel wasn't big enough and not many people would ask, but obviously with the coronavirus, I'm sure many of you may be wondering if you watch my content regularly, how is this affecting my channel? Well, obviously with the way the film industry is, film reviews are going to be on hold because theaters are closed down. 10 Years Later is a series of mine that's not going anywhere, so you're still going to be seeing that. In terms of new album reviews though, really it just comes down to how much the coronavirus affects album releases. If it doesn't affect them, then of course you will see me reviewing albums. If it does, obviously I won't be able to. Just looking at this list of album releases, I don't really think a lot of them are being affected at the moment. Next week, Joyner Lucas and Party Next Door are going to be dropping, it seems, so if that happens, I'll do a double feature review of those. Dua Lipa's new album is supposed to still be coming out at the beginning of April, so of course I will review that. Lady Gaga's new album, the 1975's new album. So really it all just comes down to how artists are affected by it. If albums continue to release, I of course will review them. If not, obviously I'll only be doing 10 years later videos. But until my next review, I just want to say I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I appreciate you guys if you chose to spend your time checking out this video. I appreciate you guys who support my content. It's been a really stressful time for me for reasons I don't really want to talk about at the moment, but making these YouTube videos has been a lot of fun, and it's been a good way to kind of forget about it and kind of just unwind and escape a bit. So thank you guys for supporting my content. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys stay strong and stay healthy, and of course I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.